Welcome to October. This month's list has 15 new games on Steam, where many of them will also be participating in Next Fest. But I'll cover that more when Next Fest starts later this month. As always, all links can be found for free on my Patreon, where you can also find a wide variety of content that doesn't make it onto YouTube. I kind of use Patreon as my test kitchen, where I cook up new ideas with the help and feedback of the community. And, of course, make my newest dinosaur art. First up, we have Taboo University Book 1. This is supposed to be a sequel to Fetish Locator, but there are noticeably fewer flavors represented. Given that much of what is missing tends to be flavors that have seen increasing scrutiny over the last few years, it is very possible that we will continue to see experienced developers follow this path of apparent censorship. That doesn't mean that Taboo University is bad, just that compared to the previous game, it feels less. However, if you really enjoy the college harem experience, then you'll still likely have a great time. Taboo University Book 1 is available for PC, Mac, SteamOS, and Linux on Steam, GOG, and their Patreon with a demo on itch.io. Speaking of developers who have struggled with censorship, next up is Sunshine Love Chapter 1. I covered the developer Mr. Dot's games in a previous video, and this is the first release that has successfully made it to Steam. Those familiar with Mr. Dot's works will recognize Sunshine Love's slice of life atmosphere, even if there are fewer flavors represented than in previous titles. Unfortunately, while the game is completed, I'm not sure how quickly we will see Chapter 2 and 3 released on Steam. Sunshine Love Chapter 1 is available for PC, Mac, SteamOS, and Linux on Steam, with an Android version on their Patreon. Next up, we have Wanderer Broken Bed. This car battling RPG dating sim is releasing early access with a full release planned for 2025. This first release is expected to be about 60% of the total game, with around 10 hours of playtime. This is a pretty standard Isekai Magic Academy plotline, but I do appreciate the effort devoted to world building. Wanderer Broken Bed is available for PC, Mac, SteamOS, and Linux on Steam, with an Android and free version on itch.io and their Patreon. I first talked about our next title, Sexbot, a year ago, and we're finally seeing this homage to 1980s teen comedies released on Steam. This feels like Weird Science meets Revenge of the Nerds with a dash of Groundhog Day. While this time-traveling romp is technically completed, you will be left on a cliffhanger until the release of the next game, Sexbot Recalibrated. But in the meantime, Sexbot is available for PC, Mac, SteamOS, and Linux on Steam and their Patreon. There have been some really good titles to come out this year with Pokemon mechanics, and our next game, Spirit Valley, is one of them. I mean, it makes sense given the popularity of Monster Girls and War Crimes. This is from the same development team that gave us Scarlet Maiden, and if you love that pixel art style, then definitely choose this one. Spirit Valley is available for PC on Steam. Continuing callbacks to successful franchises, we have Love and Sex Second Base for a Fistful of Waifu. This DLC adds 3 new romanceable characters and many new harem configurations. Sadly, the bear is still not romanceable, and is one of the only characters to not even have their own Halloween costume. This is outrageous and unfair. Love and Sex Second Base for a Fistful of Waifu is available for PC, Mac, SteamOS, and Linux on Steam and GOG, with an Android version on itch.io and their Patreon. I don't know if you all have noticed, but Mango Party seems to have a very distinct style with most of its games. This trend is continued with our next title, Dead End City Blues OD Edition. This is a roguelike female protagonist corruption-themed car battler in a dystopian setting. Though, to be honest, my biggest issue is that while this game takes place in Neo-Yokohama, there is no mention of the Cup Noodle Factory. Dead End City Blues OD Edition is available for PC on Steam. If you are looking for a less extreme version of NTR than being denied Cup Noodle, next up is Long Story Short. I mean, technically the NTR in this game is optional, but it is also the majority of the content. Next thing you'll tell me is that I can have Maro-chan instead of Cup Noodle. It is not the same. But if you are looking for a spicy broth of corruption, betrayal, and hedonism, Long Story Short is the game for you. Available for PC, Mac, SteamOS, and Linux on Steam, Patreon, and itch.io. So a very, very long time ago, I may have mentioned how Mango Party games tend to feel the same. Obviously, I was mistaken, because while our next title, Endless Forest Dream, may look like a standard Mango Party title, it takes the form of a bullet hell game. Now, I know that some people will want to correct me about the bullet hell thing and say something about Vampire Survivors. I get that. But if you look up Vampire Survivors on Steam, one of the most used tags is bullet hell. Just like how you can take one look at Endless Forest Dream and say, no, it looks like Mango Party. Endless Forest Dream is available for PC on Steam. Speaking of highly recognizable brands, next up is Natsu no Sagashimono, what we found that summer. This summertime harem-building pixel game by Kagura may seem strangely familiar, but I assure you that it is all in your imagination. Is this significantly different from the other summer-themed games that Kagura has released this year? Not really, but if you love these flavors, then this is seriously your year. Natsu no Sagashimono, what we found that summer, is available for PC on Steam, but you will need the patch from Kagura's website. So I was really looking forward to the release of Bloodcrave in time for Halloween. I mean, urban fantasy vampires seems like a perfect fit, but sadly the game has been delayed to 2025. However, we are being given Bloodcrave R18 Prologue in the meantime. I expect the developer's Kickstarter will launch with this Prologue's release. I mean, it would make sense if it did, but we'll just have to see. Bloodcrave R18 Prologue is available for PC, Mac, SteamOS, and Linux on Steam, Patreon, and itch.io. Next up is the latest game in the long-running Eleanor series by Lesson of Passion, Eleanor in Miami. I mean, at this point, it amazes me that this couple is still together, but at the very least, we can play this game in the future to remember when people used to live in Florida. Eleanor in Miami is available for PC, Mac, SteamOS, and Linux on Steam. From Miami, we move to the Lost City 2. I mean, going by Scarface, CSI, and Miami Vice, I'm pretty sure this game could have just taken place in Miami. But instead, we are in the jungle. I don't want to alarm anyone, but this series doesn't even take place in a city. Maybe in Lost City 3, but I doubt it. Until then, this Alan Quartermain style harem builder is available for PC, Mac, SteamOS, and Linux on Steam and their Patreon. Looking for more gameplay in your harem builder? If so, next up is Demon Maiden and Slave Summoning. As with most Play Meow games, there's not a lot that I can show, so I'll take this time to thank my patrons. You all rock. Fortunately, with a name like Demon Maiden and Slave Summoning, I think we all know what to expect here. Available for PC on Steam. And finally, how can I do a list of October games without a touch of Eldritch Horror? Fortunately, we have the Allure of Wanton Cove. This text-based title focuses on transformation, corruption, and body horror, and was originally completed years ago. However, this new version has an updated UI and art from the same team that gave us Jerry Winker. The Allure of Wanton Cove is available for PC, Mac, SteamOS, and Linux on Steam and their Patreon. There you have it. October looks like it's going to be an amazing month, especially after I release another round of Halloween games for everyone to enjoy. But that is next time. Until then, no shaming, just gaming.